Hey, Austin, how are you?
Good, Dad. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Today's an exciting day. We have two friends that I've known for a long time joining us, and I just want to tell our listeners it's going to be an exciting time. But today, our journey takes us to Philadelphia, Mississippi, as we take a look inside the heart, mind, and passion of our first father and daughter team. This is a story about a father and a daughter, dreams, love for Jesus, basketball, and their impact on each other and their community, and who is the best three-point shooter in the family. My name is Ken Karcher, and alongside me is my son, Austin. Today, we'd like to welcome Philip and Miriam Prince as our guests to Awaken Kingdom Culture, where hearts and minds come alive, one story at a time. Welcome, Philip, Miriam.
Greetings from the
Glad
big
to have
city
you
of
guys.
Philadelphia.
Well, we're glad you're here. Let's jump right into it. And Philip, let's start with you. And I just want to ask you, give our listeners one word that would describe your family when you were a kid growing up.
Love. One word,
And
love.
tell us a little bit about mom and dad. Awesome. Tell us about your mom and dad and siblings.
I'm the youngest of four children, and my mom, they had me late. I always say that the other kids acted like I was an accident, but that's not true. But my parents were older, and I always say I almost had like grandparents and parents in one, but you couldn't. I say if any person, any child was born into my family, um, you would have to try to fail. I mean, they were just everything they did was a picture perfect, not perfect, but the epitome of what it meant to love Jesus. Not in the sense of like people would say they drug you to church, you had to go to church. I never felt that. I saw them live it out, and I would have to have been a fool to reject the love, the love of Christ that I saw and felt. It's just I wish every kid could have Jimmy and Phyllis Prince as a mom and dad. The world would be a better place.
And both mom and dad are still alive. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's right. Dad's 93 and mom's 87, and they go to all their games. And, it's a miracle. They had a wreck
Wow.
on the way to a tournament. And, I was like, Dad, you don't have to come. They change cars and that's just how they are.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, Philip, who inspired and influenced your love for basketball as a kid? And maybe tell us if you had a favorite team or some of your heroes and dreams as a young man.
Okay, yeah, that was my brother Eric. He was 10 years older, and Eric was a good high school player, but the 3-point line wasn't around then. And so it was a different game. It was a different game. And so he really fell in love with it at college. And so he would come home and play, and we started doing pickup ball, and I played with a lot of the older guys. And he loved Julius Erving. And I always say this, I was the only white guy anywhere in the world that hated Larry Bird. We loved Julius Erving. And so we were Philadelphia 76er fans. And, you'd have one game on ABC on a Saturday, man. We'd watch it.
Yes.
We would put it on outside, and we would play and pretend to be Maurice Cheeks and Moses Malone and all that. And so deep inside of me with him and his love and my admiration of him was a drive that was inexplicable. I had no reason to pick that game. I was the worst DNA probably. If you look at the scheme of life, that's at least the last game I should have chosen. But I and so I always, often, and it wasn't. I knew it wasn't a sin, but I would tell them I almost felt like it was a sin if I missed practice. That's how driven I was. I'd go practice, and of course, it's a game. You can get in the backyard by yourself and shoot. And so shoot, I did, and the old guys, which was my brother, they never took it easy on me. So I had to get a fast shot, and we'd play. And I remember the day I beat him. The day I beat him when I was in 10th grade. So I would have been about 15, and he was about 25. That was my first time of really feeling like I was a man. It was He was that, he was that good. And if you got an older brother or sister, y'all know how that is. You felt like, well, I got him, and he was mad, and he never took it easy on me, and we continued to play. But that was my first realization. Hey, I'm not bad. I'm okay at the game, and so that continued to motivate.
It's amazing. I grew up obviously in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The Sixers were my team too. I loved Irving and Cheeks and Malone, and it's funny to hear you say that. So, Philip, other than probably mom and dad, I'm sure they are the number one, but who were some of your role models in the faith as a young man?
Well, I guess keeping with the basketball theme, I had a coach in sixth grade named Barry Upton, and he gave me a 21-day challenge to help me change my shot. So I was so skinny and stuff. I was shooting a funky shot, and he helped show me that. So I did. He always said I did it 60 days. I was supposed to do 21 days, and he was the first person that really linked Jesus. It's not that my parents didn't, but I really kind of began. He reinforced that you can love Jesus and you can love basketball and you can use basketball to further the kingdom. And so he was huge. He was a huge launch point in my life. He helped me change my game. And then on through the time, there were just so many people within the church that just poured into my life. Church was never about a building for me. It was the people, and I could name them from Sunday school teachers to youth ministers, but the community of faith really exemplified Jesus and the love of Christ. And road post to road post, they got me to where I am today. And it really gave me my love for church. The understanding of the need of community, and so that was. And then I had a guy, when I got to college, named Joe Cole. Joe Cole has since passed. And if we talk about the ark, he was one of the only persons that believed when I would tell him about my dream and vision of a basketball ministry. Mm-hmm. He was one of the first that believed in me, and he never got to see it. Oh, it makes me so sad that he never got to see the fruit of it. But he was a guy that would bust my chops. He's a guy that would say, "What are you reading? What have you done for Jesus?" He was just kind of dry humor guy. And he loved basketball, and we'd go on mission trips and use basketball. So he was a guy in college that kind of pushed that too. So those two guys.
We'll definitely get to that conversation in a minute. That's for sure. And thinking about your young years as a young man, do you have any memorable conversations that you had with your dad that you would share with us?
Yeah, Dad was, he was old school now. I told you he was older when he had me, and he's a tough man. He's not a guy that was gonna, hey boy, I love you, 24/7. He wasn't that. But we knew he loved us. But I remember he told me about setting goals, and I don't know why I remember that story so well in my mind. I guess because I thought he meant basketball goals. I was like, what is he? I didn't know what that meant. But he was a guy that. So many people, and I always say this about, to my Mississippians, I try to, we aim low so that we can hit the mark. And then we act like it's success. And Dad never did that. He was always thinking high. And I really appreciated that. And everything that he did, he was he wasn't a contrarian to be contrarian. He just wasn't satisfied. He was never satisfied with mediocrity. And, I remember that story, and if you overlap that with what Jesus, and obviously that's what Jesus was about. He wasn't going to be status quo. He wasn't going to be someone, that thought low. And so my dad helped me with that conversation. I remember that well.
Awesome. Miriam, tell us a little bit about how you would describe your dad.
Best fan in the stands, loud, passionate, competitive, loving. Yeah, I would definitely say passionate. Some people mistake that for just blind rage, but he's really passionate.
Do you have any good stories of him in the stands that you remember?
Yes. One time, I have so many, but one of my favorites is we were playing Jackson Prep in a like quarterfinal, semifinal game. Can't remember, but it was like a big game because we lost them that year, and the whole student section theme was like blackout. So like it was like a sea of black, and at the end of the game when the buzzer went off and we won that game, I'm not even joking, y'all. There's like a thin rail. It's like this big. He gets up on top of the rail like this, takes his shirt off, and he has his skin tight jersey from like 1985 on, and it was. And the Jackson Prep cheerleaders looked at him and were like,
Oh, that's awesome. So tell us, do you know of or do you have a favorite story about your dad's playing career, maybe that he's told you growing up?
probably the time that they called him, they chanted Skeletor at him, and he hit like, or the time he hit 7 threes in one quarter. That's pretty impressive.
Awesome.
Wow.
When did they chant Skeletor? Tell us about that.
I told you I was. If LeBron James is on one end, I was on the other DNA spectrum, and so whatever I ran out, people said that one team said that they asked if my mama ever fed me. That was the one. I was so skinny. People really couldn't believe that I could get the ball to the rim. That's how it was. So I was always the center of abuse.
Miriam, tell us about how did he inspire and influence your love for basketball and your faith?
Well, for starters with basketball, a lot of people will ask me like, how many shots does your dad make you shoot a day, or stuff like that, and I just want to say that it's not like that. He got me back out in the backyard since as long as I can remember, and I kind of fell in love with it. And my dad, like I said, he's really passionate. So we like to reference the verse, whatever you put your hands to, you're going to do it with all your might as if you're working for the king. And I think that's how, I know he referenced this, but how he tied basketball and faith together. For me, it's like I chose to pursue basketball and I wanted to play at a high level when I told him that from as young as I can remember. And he really pushed me and he taught me discipline, not only in basketball, but in life and in my faith. And
That's awesome.
So let's bounce to the playing career a little bit for both of you. And Philip, I'm going to start with you. I think that you were labeled a gym rat. What would that? How would you describe that to our listeners? What's a gym rat look like?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I always tell my little boy today, my son, to me, a gym rat would be somebody that's self-motivated and, would go get in the gym on their own. And of course, I didn't, my brother loved it. And he'd tell you this, we didn't know squat. We didn't know anything about the specifics. We'd never had anybody or any coaching. Like football, the quarterback, footwork,
Right.
ball positioning is also important. And if somebody tells you that when you're, 8 years old, that's a big deal. They tell you in 13. So we had none of that. We would watch and try to do what Julius Erving did, whoever. We couldn't do it, but getting in the gym though and getting the reps up, I just always had a number, and I would say I got 100, 200 makes, and my dad would rebound, my brother would rebound, or whatever, and so that was always a discipline to get the makes in. And I didn't know ball handling drills and things that I showed them that I got later on. I would have done all those things. I just didn't know. I didn't know about them. But if there was a gym open and there were lights on, I was in it. And so a gym rat is just somebody I think that just obviously spends time in the gym, self-motivated. And there's not many people that do that.
So you're definitely right on that in all sports, but
Right.
well, you had a great career, and I think if I'm correct me if I'm wrong. This you were named Hall of Fame, right, for 2024 at Leak. Just talk to us a little bit about share with us about your high school career, and then on to East Central and even to Southern Miss. Walk us through your career from high school on, Philip.
Well, it wasn't. I always said it was nothing fabulous about anything I did. I always tell I have a nephew that's like super buff, and if he could be like a model. And I always say that's how I thought I was. That's what I thought I looked like. I was the chicken that thought it was an eagle, and I didn't know any, I didn't know any better. I guess if I'd have known, I would have never made it, right? And anyway, I was in a small school, so that gave me a chance to kind of play. Because I think if I'd have been a big school, I never would have played. I had the faith. I believed. I got reps in. So the 3-point line came when I was in 7th grade, and that was a game changer for me. If you watch, obviously people watch Steph Curry. We were playing like that in 1993. I would shoot that sucker from half court. If you guarded me from half court, I'd back up. I would back up and shoot it past half court, and that's all I had, and I thought I was going to go wherever because I had these dreams, and there's not many coaches, as you know, Coach Carter, that's going to venture into Mad Mississippi and recruit a 130-pound man. I didn't know that. I thought, they're going to be there. UConn and Duke and North Carolina didn't call, and a guy named Chris Croft and Marty Cooper. Marty Cooper, man, I could tell you a million stories about him and how he shaped my life, but he gave me a chance. I always say Marty didn't really think I would amount to much, and I don't blame him. But he put me in a good environment, a good chance to play. My freshman year, we were one of the best teams in the nation, and we were really good. And every day I got better because I played against 5 Division I and Division II players. I couldn't even hardly get the ball in as a point guard. We would try to enter the ball just to play offense, and we couldn't do it. That's how good they were. So got better. The only claim to fame I have, if people know Marcus Mann during my freshman year, Odom from Wake Forest. I don't know if y'all remember that name, but he came to recruit Marcus Mann, who was a perennial All-American, JUCO All-American. And I hit like 7 threes in practice that day. And the coach from Wake Forest said, "Who's the skinny white guy?" And so I was like, "Yeah." That's the only claim to fame that I had of any major recruitment other than Southern Miss was in the gym the day we played Jones. Jones was top 5 team in the nation, and I got 35 that night. And Coach McKinnon said I was the best player on the court. So, okay, I'll take that. And he gave me a chance. MK Turk was a guy that was at Southern at the time. Conference USA was formed. I had about I'd probably had less, statistically it's a 1% chance that you get recruited to play Division I or to play. I think that's what it did. I probably had 0.00000, whatever 1% chance. I took it. It was a chance to roll the dice. I'm just going to go try again. My dad. I'm going to go try to play at the best, and went there. And unfortunately for me, MK Turk left the next year. There was no transfer portal. I had redshirted. There was no transfer portal, and so James Green came in, and I liken it to football. It would be like if you had an option quarterback, and all of a sudden you went to the spread. That was the
Right.
change, and culturally, and for me, it was not a good fit. But it's okay. And in those times, God at Southern Miss is when I met a lot of the people that associated with the Ark, and I look back now and I know what God was moving me to places and letting me know basketball is not supreme, and that wasn't easy at the time. But along the road, Coach, I met wonderful people. Had good games, games that I think you don't get to do much. Not many people get to say you got X amount or hit this many threes or whatever. So that part was fun. But really, when I look back, it's the people. The coaches and the teammates that I still stay in touch with and just loved on, and they loved on me. So that's it.
Do you have a favorite sports memory from your high school, college career?
Yeah, well, Stan Jones is at Florida State, and he's been in the NBA, and he's an assistant at Florida State, and he told me the other day we talk a lot still, and we were at JA was a supreme competitor in our division, and they had a really good team, and we were in what we call overall. It was all the divisions would play, in one tournament in our particular league, and so in this game he's coaching, and he had a team that was far superior. We would have beaten them 1 out of 100 times, no doubt. and we had the one night where we beat them, and I puked in front of 2,000 people. I mean, people still talk about that game. I threw up, and I had to throw up. I threw up in my shirt. I'm sorry if that's crude, but I did, and I stayed in the game. I got a shot at halftime. I got 30 points that night, and we beat the number one team in the state. So that was cool. That was
Wow.
yeah. It was
Awesome.
like Hoosiers. It was like Hoosiers. You know, we weren't supposed to.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
So, Philip, as you're leaving Southern Miss, describe your spiritual journey at that point in your life.
Well, you know, for me at Southern Miss, that was the best of times and the worst of times. It was an honor to be on a team and to be part of that. But, you know, it was also the darkest. And I was telling guys the other day, I really felt like Joseph in a pit. I felt like I had abided with God, and all the doors I knew he had opened for me, all of a sudden, like every channel closed. And I was like, man, I was so confused. I didn't give up on him. I didn't say we didn't have some tough conversations. You know, I wrestled with him, but I knew he was faithful. And so I didn't give up, but I was down. I don't know if you've ever been there. I was depressed about that.
Yes.
I had a girl named Valerie that I knew, and I knew there was a new chapter opening in that. And I went to coach with my JUCO coach at Fulton, and we got married in '99. And in 1999, we went on a mission trip to India. In fact, I got married like on a Saturday, and the next Monday or Tuesday, we flew to India with Joe Cole,
Wow.
the guy I referenced. And you know, God just reminded me, hey, look, basketball's not dead. Your life isn't over. I'm going to do other things with it. And man, just looking back on those trips and just that journey, just in my house yesterday, or I guess it was Monday, I had an Indian. He came in, and it just reminded me of just seeing him talk of just the circle of life, and just amazing. He's in my house talking to me now, you know, since 1999, that time span of God just reminding you, I told you. Yeah, I told
Wow.
you, good things are coming. And man, he's, you know, there's a song that he never fails us, you know, and
Amen.
he hasn't.
Amen.
He's generation to generation. He's good. And he redeemed basketball. You know, that's the thing that, you know, people think you got to make it to the NBA. I tell my people think my kids have got to play college ball and D1, and I don't care. You know, I've always told them, I said, we're going to do it right and play hard, and we're going to go out in the court and leave everything we have, and whatever happens, happens. And, you know, I'm testimony that, you know, you don't have to be in the NBA or whatever, you know, to use your game and use a platform. You know, God's got it, and he did. So.
Awesome. So, Miriam, you're a pretty good basketball player yourself. So tell us a little bit about Leak Academy and kind of your journey in high school.
Well, Leak will always be home to me. I was really blessed with a fabulous high school coach, Amanda Hatch. And like Dad said, she gave me a chance in the 8th grade, and I got to play on probably one of the best teams to ever come through Leak Academy. Had a really talented senior class. Got to play in 9th grade. Got sick that year during playoffs, so that wasn't a fun year. But then we came back in my 10th grade year and won everything. Only lost 2 games that year. Junior year was a blast. I think I passed Dad in the scoring that year.
Yeah.
And then of course,
Miriam, since you brought that up, Miriam, let's settle this right now. I referenced it in the beginning. Who is the best shooter in the house, Miriam?
I'm the best shooter.
He may be the best shooter, but the best
doubt.
player is going to be me.
I agree with that.
I'm
Kids can't have shooting. Then I go out shooting.
Yeah.
I'm a machine coach.
Go ahead, Miriam.
Yeah. He may be a better shooter, but better player. But then my senior year, of course, I played 10 games. Started off really, really well, and then my injury just kind of came back, and I missed almost the rest of the season. Didn't get to play up at 100% during the playoffs, so that was a tough year for me. But overall, a really, really good, fun career. Had a lot of good teammates throughout the years. Really blessed.
Some of your accolades that I see is, you know, player of the year as a sophomore. You're a 5A state runner-up as a junior. And then going into your senior year, like you were on pace to score 3,000 points, which would have put you top in Mississippi. And then I guess is it July 14th? Is that the day where can you tell us a little bit about your injury and what happened?
Yeah, it was a really, really weird deal. I guess I have a high pain tolerance because I thought I had shin splints throughout. They said it was like towards the latter part of my junior year, actually. I had shin splints, but I didn't care. I had basketball to play, and then of course, right after you finish your school ball, you jump right into AAU. So between school ball, AAU, and practicing on my own, I was really, really pounding that leg, and I just thought it was shin splints. And like I said, I had camps and games to play. And one day we were playing against Brookhaven at JA camp, and he said I was limping like a horse. I was like, I couldn't go around anybody. My friend looked at me and she was like, Miriam, guard the ball. I was like, I can't.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if anybody hears me say like, I can't do that, like she knew in that moment something was up. And he said, that's it. We're going to the doctor. I'm, of course, delusional, and I think that it's still shin splints. And he says, your tibia is about to snap.
Oh,
And
Oh, wow.
so I'd actually planned to go to Indiana, which would be a really, really big tournament. A lot of college coaches, and I had to miss that one and get surgery. So the tournament.
Talk to us a little bit about maybe your conversations with Papa during that time when everything's like kind of on the rise. You're getting ready for your senior year, going to college, and you get struck with this challenge or this situation. And being a human being, I understand that it's hard to handle things like that. What was it like with God during that time?
Obviously, it was a really frustrating time in my life. Like you said, I was on track to be one of the top scorers in Mississippi, and I was really, really excited for that live period in July because I would get a chance to play in front of a lot of college coaches and kind of prove myself. And so it was really frustrating. I would say, like he said a while ago, like I felt like Joseph in the pit. I didn't understand what was happening. And yeah, of course, my dad was there to walk me through it. It was just a really, really tough, dark place in my life, and I feel like it took really a full year to fully get back to myself. And he really encouraged me to stay in the Word and kept me going.
Yeah,
Philip, as a dad, which you and I can relate with our children. What were you thinking? What were some of your emotions and thoughts as you're watching your daughter get this news and going through this time? I know you and I talked during that time when I was at EC, but share with our listeners as a dad what you're going through.
Oh, it was anguish. It's like, it's very, everybody knows your senior year is a pretty important year in your life. And it's important, obviously, sports wise, because you're at your peak. And Mimi was a thoroughbred, man. She was a strong, powerful player, and for me, I was heartbroken that all the work that she'd put in, was not gonna get to be, because for us, I always wanted again people to see her play in an excellent way because it gives you hope, it gives you reason to say, hey, I can be Miriam, I can be that person, again, and raise the bar. And the school, they'd won back-to-back state titles. They had everybody coming back, all the stuff that goes with that. But again, once you realize the news, you can play the victim. We could all go suck our thumbs on the couch and wail and weep and say, woe is me, but that's not going to get us anywhere. So she did a marvelous job of getting in the Word. That was at the time we had just planted the church. And brother, let me tell you, Coach, it's tough to praise Jesus. It's tough. It's tough in those times. And, she saw us doing that and we did. Woo! I may cry thinking about it. But it was a lot of wrestling, you wrestle with him. And I was like, come on, God. Because you need all the help when you're a small town, small school kid, you need all the help you can get, to get looked at, to go to a place and to get what you deserve and all the stuff that goes, a dad knows, she doesn't know. And it's like, wow. So anyway, it's that flesh pull versus the spiritual side where God's going to take care of you. It's not fun. We know that he didn't do it. We know that he didn't cause it. It's just one of those. And like as a dad, I tell people this all the time. I was militant on making sure she didn't get hurt. We had no idea. She never told us she was even having pain in her leg. I was like, we would have sat out for 6 months. And we like, I know people think that. I was like, we're going to get out there and practice. And we did. She didn't even play. She didn't play AAU till late, because I didn't want to pound her legs and her body. And it's like you can't make it up. You cannot make up that this happened other than like God's going to use it for his glory to tell a story that's much bigger than basketball, that because there's going to be somebody that'll see this that's going through something similar. And if you see somebody can make it through and know God's got it, and there's the hope that's Jesus, that you're okay. Because if she never played basketball again, Mimi's going to be okay. She's got that foundation. And so then she got in the Word, man. And because we didn't know, Mimi went through depression. There's no doubt. 90% of the world would have got on, either they would have got drunk or got on pills. No doubt. And she got in the Word. And that to me is the greatest of all. She got in the Word.
Awesome. I've seen a quote before, and it just triggered in my head as you were talking. It's like sometimes a person's greatest pain is someone else's greatest hope. And I think, like you were saying, is just our perseverance with Christ through difficult situations can provide great hope to those around us. Yeah. So, Miriam, talk to us a little bit about maybe what role your family played and your faith, kind of like he was touching on, in your recovery and in your comeback.
Yeah, my family was definitely my rock at the time, because sometimes you gotta pick somebody up and run. And at that point, I think I was probably at 0%, 10%. So I was pretty much fully relying on them for, joy and happiness and stuff at the time. And of course, they pointed me to the Word, and my dad sat with me. I had a little bell that I would ring, and he would bring me Sprite.
That definitely makes you happy.
I'd like to see that.
He was a good little maid. He was a good little server, and people would come. He would sit and talk with me, and of course, I had a big bouquet of flowers all around me. You got a broken leg, but if you can see some flowers out there, that'll put a smile on your face. But yeah, he never let me quit. I get emotional talking about it, but he never let me quit. Like you said before, I at one point wanted to get on some medication because I was severely upset at what happened to me. And he just said, like, that's not what we're going to do. And he really, really pointed me to the Word. And I was able to find strength and comfort in that. And I think that.
Is there a particular verse maybe or chapter or something that gave you a lot of comfort?
Yeah, I would say Psalm 23. And it was funny because it says, thy rod and thy staff. And I had a big rod put in my leg. So I felt like even though I was in the darkest valley, he had a table prepared for me. He anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. And his goodness has followed me throughout all the days of my life. And I can sit here and get upset. And I feel like I have that right a little bit, but I can just look back and see all the goodness even throughout the bad times. He definitely prepared that table for me.
Well, she had a community of faith too. That's when we were forming the church, and they were so great. And just praying over her and encouraging her, because you got to have the affirmation. You got to have people that pick you up and remind you and tell their stories, like you said earlier, the heartbreak that other people. When you think of a broken leg as compared to somebody that lost a child or whatever, this is nothing. Yeah. That's what we talk about all the time. I mean, come on. in relation to the world's problems, this isn't major. For a 12th grade girl, it's huge. And so I
That's
wasn't
right.
trying to downplay. I wasn't trying to downplay it, and she knows that. But at the same time, a lot of people would tell their stories and encourage her in the church. So that was awesome. And that's why it's so important. I don't know how people make it outside of a community of faith. I don't. There's no Rambo Christians.
No. Miriam, I'm just so grateful for your vulnerability and transparency because, like your dad said, I mean, there'll be some listener that's going to hear your story. And that's Austin and I just love doing this because we get to have people share their stories every week, where they are. They're all unique. They're all different. But like your dad said, that has come true in my life so much is everybody's pain is different. And, we might look at someone and say, wonder why they're struggling with that. Well, that's their pain. That's their story that Papa's using to bring them to a point of restoration so they can go and encourage others. So, I really want to thank you for sharing that. Now, let's jump to the recruiting process. I think your dad and I had multiple conversations during this time. I know was going on. You're dealing with uncertainty. We've all had it. You wait for that phone to ring or you wait for that text and it's not coming. Talk to us about some of the conversations, and I don't care who goes first, but that the two of you were having during this time of uncertainty in recruiting.
The recruitment process is definitely
You mean
really,
about high school?
what?
I think he's talking about high school right now.
Yeah,
So
high school when you before EC.
Okay, yeah.
Wait, before EC?
Mm-hmm.
All right, you go.
Well, no, I mean, I was just letting you know that he's talking two different areas there, but again, because I knew this, and I mean, this may sound arrogant, I don't know, but Miriam could have played anywhere in the state, any level. She was one of the, we have a Dandy Dozen. She was one of the top 12 players in the state. She was nominated on the All-American team. She could go play elite Nike basketball teams on a circuit, and she would get 30 on them. I'm not a genius, but I'm a basketball nut, and I knew she could hoop. I don't have to anybody tell me that she can hoop. She had the footwork, she had the strength, she had the skill, the speed. But again, Coach, it's hard. It's hard for coaches to find you in a small school, and specifically in Mississippi. And so anyway, I knew that, but so it's a frustrating thing, because you won't, when you have a diamond, and of course I'm a dad, so you've got some bias there. Obviously, you've got some over the top emotion.
You should.
We should. But you can set that aside. So when you've got something good, you want people to flock to it. You want people to know. You want people to, but when she got hurt, anybody that was even remotely on the radar, because again, your senior year, if you start seeing you score 3,000 high school points, then there's only like 5 people in the state that's ever done that. When you look at winning another state championship, and I mean they played for a state championship. And she had a broke leg. She was probably 50%, and they played for a state championship. So I think they win if she's healthy, So there's so much you miss out on the fact of somebody watching you at your best, and even from 11th to 12th grade, there's a huge. I mean, for my life, I got so much better by my senior year. I mean, she was infinitely better, infinitely stronger. She lifted weights. I mean, she was primed to be explosive, powerful. All those videos, all those eyeballs, nothing. And so, I was like, man, what? But we went to the JUCOs, and all the JUCOs in Mississippi. I think most of them thought they wouldn't get her, and that's what they told us, that she was going to go play somewhere else. A D2, a couple of them got on her later on, and kind of wanted her. And then there was 3 or 4 JUCOs that really wanted her. They were some of the best. The JUCO women's basketball in Mississippi is pretty good. It's pretty solid. And one coach in particular, Missy Bilderback, was at Jones, and we valued her. And man, she is a fantastic human. Man, just no words to describe. So when we went on that visit, it was a breath of, like, for a dad and her agent, whatever. I like, because what she told me, it was another person verifying what you know. And she was like, Mimi's awesome. We don't care if she's been injured. We know she's going to come here 1 year and go out. And I was like, man, dude, we got in the car like, this is crazy. How refreshing. But again, that was, to me, God looking back, breathing into us with a human, a person. Yes. He uses people to speak into your life. And that gave her good confidence. And so different things happened. She ended up leaving, and then another coach came in and at East Central. And, we thought, man, she was a successful coach and all that. And so we ended up choosing to go locally, which was a good move because it helped her with the injury, helped her with recovery, helped her to be home, all that kind of stuff that goes with all the psychological things. But so that's in a nutshell, I think, from high school, Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And then you can tell them in from. So anyway, I guess with that, Missy got hired at ULM, and when she got hired at ULM, I was like, man, that's crazy. And so from day one, almost day one, they were all over her, and they said, we don't care about the injury. We know Miriam's character. Missy had coached in the league Miriam played in, and she said, man, I know what she did to that league. I know how good that league is. She said, I've seen enough. She said, we want Miriam. And I don't know. It's like when I met my wife, I don't need to meet any other women, man. That's so I mean, the thing would have been, a lot of people ask why she signed early with ULM. It was a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer. And like for Missy Bilderback could go to Alaska University Tech.
And we'd be there.
And we would go there.
We'd be in the
That's who she is. We that's a no-brainer. She's an awesome coach.
That's awesome.
Let me interrupt you for a moment. I'm grateful for the opportunity that I have to do this podcast with my son, Austin. For the last 10 years, Austin and I have had many intimate conversations on his drive home from work. Some of these father-son conversations have been lighthearted, while others have been very deep and emotional. Over the Christmas holidays, we decided to start a podcast called Awaken Kingdom Culture, where we invite our friends to share their life-changing stories with you, our listeners. This podcast is done under our nonprofit, The Win Awakening, a sports ministry network for coaches, athletes, and those who lead. Our vision is to awaken hearts and minds, one story at a time. Our mission is to encourage coaches and athletes and those who lead to live from a place of victory, regardless of success, records, or the scoreboard. Our goal is to create safe environments where transparency and vulnerability are accepted, and value and worth are recognized in an atmosphere of love. Right in the middle of your mess, I'm reminded daily that the most important person of my day is the one in front of me, and that one matters, and that you are the one. WinAwakening.org is our website. I encourage you to visit our website where you can encounter the good news of who you are in Christ and what you already possess and how to live from it. There you'll find blogs, videos, Andrew's journal, and this podcast, Awaken Kingdom Culture, where hearts and minds come alive, one story at a time. I'm thankful for all of you who have given and are a member of Team Win. Awaken Kingdom Culture is listener supported. And if you'd like to support us, you can go to winawakening.org. We are a nonprofit. I encourage you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And please like, share, and write a review on Spotify or YouTube. Okay, it's time to get back to the podcast.
So tell us a little bit about your time at East Central, and then when do you head over to Louisiana Monroe, and tell us a little bit about some of your goals and some of your dreams.
Yeah, it was a fun, good year at East Central. Like me and Dad said, I did plan to go at a higher level earlier, but I think with the injury, going JUCO one year was really really good for me. It felt kind of like a gap year, like I could just kind of have fun, experiment, and I felt like the first half of the season was a little frustrating. I would say that I hadn't fully gotten my quicks back, my burst, my explosion, but I think by the second half, I really got rolling and finished strong. We had a tough year with injuries. Not mine this time. We had a girl who's really really talented, four player, tear Achilles. So just
Mm.
battling through that, and we ended up having, was it 7 or 8 people?
Yeah, I think they only had 7 people
Yeah,
at the end.
seven
It's just
people at
very,
the
very
end.
difficult no matter what level.
Yeah,
A
it
couple
was.
of girls had quit after Christmas, which were start. We had 2 starters that quit, but
Yeah,
I think they ended up getting to 500 in the league, which is pretty good. I mean,
yeah,
considering they only had 7 people. I mean, and one of those girls were on a knee brace. It was amazing. It was amazing. East Central hasn't won 19 games in 10 years. Um, they won the first region
Awesome.
game. They
yep,
won the first region game, and I think Mimi was player of the year for the whole league and as a freshman, the freshman player of the year.
yeah.
And
Yeah, I think we would have had a
Awesome.
chance to win a lot more games if we would have had our other two starters
yeah, for
healthy
sure.
and playing.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
it was a fun year. And I report to
So
LMA on June 29th, so I got about a month left.
okay, well that's exciting. Tell us about your goals or dreams moving towards ULM.
Yeah, like Dad said, I'm just really excited to play for Coach B and Coach Pitt and Coach Tot and the whole gang. They're awesome. They're really uplifting, and uh, I'm really excited to jump into that. I think some goals I've set is I want to be the newcomer of the year, and like he said, we're the same person. I keep saying like he said, but we like to aim really high. We like to aim really high, so that
Yeah,
if you miss that goal, just say you aim right here and you're right here, you're still doing pretty good. We're not aiming low. So
yeah,
I want to be the newcomer of the year. I want to shoot the 3 point, shoot 3 pointers at like around 40% this year.
awesome.
We're going to be watching. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, y'all have to
Absolutely.
make the trip.
Yeah.
There
Well,
we go.
So you play in that area. We'll have to let you know. I think. How far-
Please.
Yeah,
Yes.
please do.
Yeah.
So, Philip, you mentioned the name earlier, but let's talk about the love of your life. Tell us a little bit about Val, how you met her, maybe a proposal story, and what makes her special to you.
That's a lot of stuff, Coach.
He's way out of his league.
Well, what's amazing about it, I mean, whatever, that's all of us if we're smart as men. But Val is just, I mean, the thing about Valerie, and I mean this, she's improved even with age. Like she's more beautiful today than she was at 20. Uh, and a lot of that is her faith and her growth, and the scriptures are true in that. A woman that's grounded and loves Jesus, she gets better like fine wine, man. And so we met. We have a friend, and believe it or not, the guy that she's dating and supposedly gonna marry, maybe, was the couple that mom and dad told me at East Central, I got a girl you need to date, and I was shy, and I was a loser with the ladies. All I want to do was shoot basketball. And so that couple, and my coach at East Central said, I've got a girl you need to date. And it was the same woman. It was Valerie. And her name was Buggs, Valerie Buggs. Bugs. So I say I bug, and she became a princess. That's pretty good, Coach. So
I like that. That's good.
yeah, it was good. We dated through college. She went to Ole Miss. I went to Southern Miss. Obviously, that's if a marriage or a relationship can endure that. That was about 4 hours. We made it through that and ended up proposing, I guess that summer before my final year, I think. Anyway, got married in 99, Prince. We partied like it's 1999. That's another funny. Coach, you know who Prince is, don't you, Coach? The artist formerly known as Prince.
I do.
I do too. I do too.
Okay. So we got married, and then Val was a musician. Is a musician. I always say that when we got married, I hindered her. She's not good. She's great. She's got a beautiful voice. She's powerful voice. In the faith circle, we say she's anointed. She's got a spiritual gift in it too. And so anyway, pivotal in the fact of the church and all that went on with that. It was her learning. She taught herself to play the guitar. She never had any formal training. She just could do it. And then she taught herself the guitar, and through all that and all the things God put together, it was huge that she was able to do that musically. Because when we started the church, she was big in the aspect of worship, which is such a big part of our faith and especially in our church. So we had our first child was Miriam. When were you born, Mimi?
2005.
Okay, so 6 years later, Miriam, and then Samuel and Sarah, and then Andrew. I will not say Andrew was a mistake, but he was like me. Late in life, tried to resuscitate me whenever she told me she was pregnant with Andrew. But he's been a blessing, man. Andrew's hilarious. I don't know what we would do without Andrew. Yeah. But it's a cool family. They're good kids. They're people that have listened and adhered to the Word of God. And, we built Val and I built our house on the rock, man. And we've weathered storms. There's been good and bad days. Nothing's perfect. We fight. And we've had some tug of wars. But God is faithful. And it's been good. I wouldn't change anything.
Awesome. Miriam, tell us about what it was like growing up in your household.
Loud. Well, my boyfriend likes to say that my dad and my mom, this is the style that they raised us with, Bible and basketball. That's what he says. That's just because he took that L in Bible trivia. But,
yeah, he got killed in Bible trivia.
But I feel like whenever we would watch movies, it would be Joseph and the Coat of Colors. It would be Veggie Tales. It would be that. What's the one with the baker on there?
Yeah.
We would always. We got it through watching and listening, and of course, my mom we'd tag along to her music practices. So we got the word in a lot of ways, and then of course basketball. So Bible and basketball. That's the way to do it.
That's awesome.
Well, you've talked about it a little bit, Philip, and we're going to get deep into it now. But I know there's a life, I guess, before the dream happens. You're working with the Junction. You're a youth minister. You're coaching kids around the area, plus your own kids in hoops. You're an avid Cowboy fan. We can't leave that out.
Yeah,
Talk to us about this. Share with our listeners the process that you take to this dream, which is the Ark.
Yeah, I mean, I think going back to, like I said, with Barry Upton and Joe Cole, whenever they kind of, we would go on the mission trips. I've been to China, Argentina, India, Mexico. We've been all over taking, the game of basketball, and we would do clinics and then share Jesus. And so when we came home, we were like, why are we not doing this here? And so that was the beginning of the understanding that, man, I always say this, I could put a basketball goal at Walmart parking lot and attract 100 people today. They're going to come for us like a whale. And so a lot of the churches that we were in and that we're associated with, now the one I grew up in was very, very benevolent. They were very kind. They let us use the gym. And so not every church is like I'm saying. Many churches would build a gym and say members only, or put a cord up and put a fence around it. And they didn't really want a lot of people using it. I just kind of blew my mind. It didn't really make sense to me. And so I loved the church, but I always had this wrestling with the church too, of the way things were. I love the people, but the bureaucracy and the silliness and the pettiness and the things that went on with it infuriated me. And so God just kept, I think, usually using that to say, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And so I was always looking for somebody. I really felt like I knew I couldn't do it on my own. Like I knew God was saying there's somebody coming. And so I interviewed 6 million people, and they never knew I was interviewing them. I would share the idea, talk to them, and most of them would laugh. They'd give you that, oh yeah, good idea, or bless your heart, all that. And so at USM was a guy named Jay Clark, and this is the condensed version, but all the stuff you mentioned, we would do local missions. I was training my kids. Basketball, faith, mixing, youth ministry. I felt like I felt like I was like David. I was in the pasture. I was with the sheep, and he was forming Jay. Jay was a pastor at a church. He was a Baptist. I grew up Methodist. And when Jay moved back from from Oregon to Sebastopol, Mississippi, which is 13 minutes, you can't make it up. I mean, what? He's from Columbus, was at Southern, went to Oregon, and he's back at Sebastopol, Mississippi. It's like, I knew God was up to something. I just didn't know what. And so COVID hit, and I asked Jay, I told Jay the same story that I just told y'all, or kind of sold it. I was interviewing him, and he did that. He laughed and said, I'll pray about it. That's Christian for like, man, forget that. I'm not doing it, And he went through some dark times. He went through some situations in the church where he was frustrated. I always say it was a deal where he got wounded, along another story. But he looked at me after a conversation during COVID and said, I'm ready. He said, I'm ready. When he said, I'm ready, man, guys, I'm telling you, everything, I had filled 1,000,000 books up with ideas and thoughts and how it would happen and even people. And man, I mean, it is like this giant puzzle, this giant invisible hand, which we know where that is and who it is, but he put this thing together, man. If I wanted to take credit for it, if I tried to boast like I did it, you would know it's a lie. You can't make it up. And it's just been it's been the best 3 years of my life. And I mean, it's just crazy, man. It's just like, and again, all the stuff with her was happening. I was like, okay, God, how can I not trust you? Even with her leg, when I see all these resurrection stories, all these people that have come from he was bringing people from all over the state to come be part of our congregation. You just can't make it up. And so that was how it was birthed. It was birthed at a table when Jay Clark said, let's roll. We started in my house. It was about 40 people probably. And then it was 80. Then it was 120. Then it was, we've had probably over 400 something at times. Just gathering in a gym, gathering in a dress. It was a dress shop building. Y'all may not want that story, but one of the crazy stories is my dad, who's 90-something years old, said, hey, there's a building for sale. Because I've looked at every metal building in Philadelphia, Mississippi, and the surrounding area, every one of them, to try to put a gym in. And that building has been there since I can remember. I guess it had been there since the mid-'90s. And anyway, he said, hey, there's a metal building. And I said, where? He said, that dress shop. It was a dress shop. And in the back, she had gymnastics. What an odd combo, And so then later, Jay Clark, the pastor, said, hey, there's a building for sale. And I said, what building? He said, the dress shop. So in 1 or 2 weeks, both these guys saw a building that probably had been for sale for 5 years. When I walked in that building, y'all, I'm telling you, Handel's Messiah played. I mean, I said, man, you can't. It was perfect. It was a perfect size gym. Ended up being the place where we used it as an auditorium to meet for the church. You can't make it up. It was perfect to start the church. And so that's where we started in Easter, I guess 3 years ago, was our first service. And then 6 months later, we really officially launched. And so here we are today, man, reaching our community.
Philip, how'd you come up with the name? How'd you come up with the name, and what does it ARC stand for our listeners?
Well, my name was Spectral because of the Philadelphia 76ers played in the Spectrum. We're in Philadelphia, Mississippi, the real Philadelphia. And the spectrum is a spectrum wheel. It's all colors. It's all colors. And I was like, that's pretty cool. We can use that, in the sense of all things to all people. So that's what I told Jackson. It's going to be. And then later on, I don't even remember at what time, but he said, man, I got the name. And he said, what you talking about? He said, it's going to be called the Ark, like, the 3-point arc. Like, you meet at the Ark. And I was like, man, it was like an epiphany. I said, I threw spectrum in the trash. I said, that's it. And, so you think about the arc of life, you think about all the things that could go into that. And so we ran with it. And then we've kind of condensed it to this, is that A is all things to all people. Black people love basketball and Choctaw people love basketball. Honestly, a lot of churches don't have the mixture. And we said, we don't care. If you're seeking Jesus and you want some of this and you want some bread of life, you come on. We're never going to turn them away. Of course, we ended up going after the addicts. So they have tattoos. They don't have teeth. They've been jacked up and they got scars. And, hey, let me just tell you this. Let me tell you this story. God told me one day, I saw a guy walk by the junction and he was the dirtiest human I've ever seen. God said, go talk to him. So I'm not going to talk to him. I'm not going. I dismissed it because he ended up walking into a bank, which is right across from the street from us. And I said, well, no, he must be a logger or something. He's going to the bank. He's okay. So I said, God, he's good. That Sunday, he was at our church, and he was still just as dirty. That dude had been living in a tire. He was homeless, and he was a drug addict. Somebody in our church invited him, and he showed up. He just came to my house last night. He's fat as a pig. He looks good. He's clean because he went through a 6-month program, and he's involved in our church now. And he comes every Monday to my house to a Bible study. So if you're going to be all things to all people, a lot of churches say it, but they don't mean it. If that guy walks into 90% of the churches, and I'm telling you what I felt, I'm being honest. I said, God, I'm not talking to him. But for the most part, it's been a congregation that bought into this. And the people have showed up, and it's been rich and good. R is reconciliation. We know Jesus reconciled us to Christ. Christ reconciled us to the Father. The veil was torn. It's a beautiful story of the blood of Jesus and what he's done for us. And we would be fools not to be reconcilers on this earth. And so, there's a lot of discord. Alabama and Auburn fans hate each other. State and Ole Miss fans hate each other. There's white, black, Democrat. So there's plenty of reconciliation that needs to go on. Marriages need to be reconciled. All that is it's just right there in the Word, and it's a no-brainer. Then C is community servants. We just said we're going to do whatever it takes to get involved. If it's picking up trash or if it's just loving our neighbor, we went into Philadelphia High School the other day, and we feel like that's an area that we can go into high schools, and that's just one example of going to a school and saying, hey, how can we serve you in the name of Jesus? And just being visible in the community where people say, hey, they're legitimately followers of Christ. And however that looks and how that plays out, we're just open to it, being led by the Spirit. So that's it in a nutshell.
What a story. Awesome. What a story. Well, we're going to jump to the legacy part of the talk and wrap it up here in a little bit. But this is for both of you. How has the Ark grown your faith?
You want to go first on that one?
You go first.
Well, I think for me, it's just a fruition of everything he's always said. I'm not perfect in what I'm going to say, but I did it. And there's times that I got away from the Word, like all of us do. We get lazy and stuff. But I genuinely love the Word and love the stories that were contained there. And for me, it's just a renewal of the faith that he is faithful, that all the stories we read in the Bible and in Acts are still available today, and I've seen it, man. I could talk, we could do a whole nother show and run out of time, and there's not enough storage for the stories we've seen in the last 3 years where God did work, and he healed marriages, he healed people. I had a sheriff stop me yesterday and said, he just said thanks. I mean, he's telling me the man, but I mean, he knows it's Jesus. He knows the source, and he's a believer too. But that's powerful. That's powerful when a guy looks at you who's in the business of arresting. He's arresting all these people, and now he's seeing them free. He's seeing them freed, and he's like, "Hey, that's it. That's it." So for me, it's just, man, you get excited to get up every day, and I pray that we don't lose that. I pray that we don't get fat and satisfied and content with what He's done. That we continue to just be renewed by the power of the Holy Spirit to do it again. That's what I said the other day: is do it again, Lord, do it again, and let's just keep doing it.
Mhm.
For me, I would say the people that you're running with, specifically like you said, we do a lot of addiction based ministry, and I like to sit in the back, like in the middle, because the addicts typically sit in the front, and just to see them, because you see them come in, you see the transformation in their lives, and just to see people that have been addicted. I think one guy, how long was Bill Mills addicted for?
Bill Mills was a meth addict for 30 years.
Bill Mills was a meth addict for 30 years. And
Wow.
just to see him, he's been reconciled with his wife and his family. And just, I usually sit behind him and I see him raising his hands, praising Jesus. And if that doesn't make you want to pick up your Bible, I don't know what else does.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, they legitimately, you see people worship. And that's why I almost have to do a disclaimer at the church, because I think it's been abused so much that these people were literally in hell and they're not faking it. They legitimately are praising the risen
Yeah.
Savior, because they know what the other side's like. They know. So they've been freed.
Yeah.
And so
Wow,
it's
that's
good for them.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's good for them to.
Austin, Roger.
Well, I tell my children all the time, this is unusual for you to be reared in this and see it firsthand. So don't be satisfied wherever you live, wherever you go. Do the work. I don't care if you meet in your house. Don't go to a church just to go to be the church. Go be the church. And so that's
Yeah,
Amen.
yeah.
that's awesome. Tell us both, y'all, how has your faith impacted the father-daughter relationship between y'all?
Well, I mean, I tell if you got a daughter, every man when a baby's born, they think you don't want it to be a boy to carry on your name and those such things. But Miriam, Miriam, I think in some form was a name that we chose because she was our firstborn, and we know what she did with Moses. There was no accident in naming her that, and she's done that in life. She's been a caregiver. She's been somebody that, I guess, as far as my faith goes, was strengthened seeing her walk through the dark times. It's unusual, I guess. I mean, it shouldn't be unusual, but to see your kid minister, preach to you as a dad, she lived it. She lived out the gospel, and and for me to see that and to see her grow in faith and stature and to see her doing the work, and so many people complimented her during that time. I mean, there's a million people that pulled me aside and said, "Ooh," when they watched her during that injury and watched her be a good teammate and watched her be a good assistant coach when she couldn't play and all those things. They're worth a million. They're not. I wouldn't take $1 million for them. And just our relationship grew because of that. We became closer, and my love for her is, obviously as a father, you die for your children. You love your children, but she's been overwhelming. Like, again, basketball is nothing. I know people think, and it's hard as a dad not to tell your kids, hey, if I'm going to love you whether you make 20 points or 30 points, and we always want to get 30 or you think it's a based on production, and it's not. It's not. And I hope she knows that. I hope all our kids know that we love them. We love them despite the good and the bad. And she's endured the bad. She came out of it, and it's been amazing to see that, the woman that she's become.
And I would say for me, a woman was asking me the other day about, like, how did you not go out and party, and how did you not go out and drink and stuff like that? Because she has a younger daughter, and I just said my parents. I mean, like, just that example that they set, and I never went through a phase of experimenting or any of that sort of thing because my parents, they're the most fun of anybody, and they're not doing things of the world, and just the example that they've set. And now that I'm in college, obviously he's my dad, but he's my best friend as well. I think a lot of people wanted to, party or stay later on the weekends, but I came home as soon as I got a chance because I love hanging out with him and my mom, and I think our faith gives us a lot of similarities too.
Well, and even during that time, that's when Asa, because as a dad, it's hard for another guy. You don't want another guy to, who's this guy? But we loved him, and it was such a good time in her life too that Asa was there to pick her up. God did that. God placed a man in her life that's a godly man. He's a solid, believing lover of Jesus, and so you just see his hand in all of it, and just give him thanks for it. It's been beautiful. And the best is yet to come, man. We know that. We believe God's going to use her on the campus, if nothing else. God's going to use her on that team. And hey, if she hits 10 threes in the NCAA tournament, we'll give him glory there too.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'll be in the stands. Yeah.
Just keep your shirt on, please.
I can't.
So, Philip and Miriam, when someone spends time with you, how would you want them to remember you?
Well, I mean, obviously, we want them to know we love Jesus. That's a Sunday school answer, but
we want them to see the fruits.
The fruits of the Spirit. Yeah. And I think a lot of times, I pick on.
Well, this is.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, a lot of times people look.
I was going to wrap.
Well, I like my long hair and all the way I look. A guy one time came through the church and he said, I was so excited because the church had homeless people welcoming everybody. And it was me. And so it's funny, you see people, we have to be careful because we view people and we see them from a distance, even for our faults. And we say, well, that person's this. And once you get to know, I feel like once you get to know us, you're going to know that we love Jesus, even in our imperfections and the things that we have to work on. And I'm probably too passionate. I'm probably sometimes yelling at the referee too much. I admit it. But in the end, they'll know that we love Jesus.
Awesome.
Oh, God.
We call this part our final words before I wrap it up. And I would just ask you, Philip and Miriam, any final words you have to each other as a father and daughter? And then Austin will give you his, and I'll wrap it up.
To what we have to each other, or to y'all?
Yeah, final words to each other. To each other.
I'm proud of her, my baby. Love you.
I would just say to anybody else, just stay the course, fight the fight. It gets better. I can look back and I can be upset about I missed my senior year, but I could also look back and say, hey, I got a boyfriend that loves Jesus. I got an opportunity to play Division I basketball, and I can just see his goodness throughout my life.
Awesome. Well, I just want to say, thank y'all for coming on. This is the first time I've ever met you. I know my dad has had a relationship with y'all in the past. I've just been real encouraged by y'all's story. I'm a dad. I got 4 kids and 3 daughters, and especially my oldest daughter is what I think of most, just sitting here listening, who, just loves sports. I'm going to be coaching her flag football, and she just loves playing anything. She goes out in the yard and plays. And it's just encouraging to see, just how you've taken something that you were very passionate about and ported it and used it to point the father to your daughter and obviously to all your kids. And for me, I'm just thankful for y'all sharing your story of perseverance, Miriam, and just your faith. And I just know that, there's people all across the country that together y'all's story will encourage and lift them up. I know even Dad, as we're sitting here working on our little ministry and walking through these steps, listening to your ministry, Philip, is just and just your patience and how you interviewed 6 million people, and probably a lot of people just said, I don't know about that, and just your faith and keep plugging. I know that's hard. There's probably many lonely nights and days, but just trusting and seeing the fruits of how God showed up is really encouraging.
Well, that quote is.
Well, I've had an opportunity, and Philip,
Yes, it does.
I told Austin this before we got on, and Pauline and I, who I know you know well too, Philip, we talked about it last night. We're excited to have your story, you and Miriam, and I can validate to our listeners because I've known you for 10 years, and this is who you are. I've seen it when I've spent time with you. You're passionate, you're generous, you are transparent and vulnerable, you're a lover of people, and you're committed to your wife and your kids. And I can call you my friend. And Miriam, there's a story, I don't know if you remember this, that sums up to me your family and how much, how mature and how special you are. I think it was a senior or junior day at East Central, and you were on campus with Leek. And I was walking down the path, and you came directly up to me, remembered me from the times I was at church with your dad or at the junction, just came up, hey, coach, and gave me a big hug. And I thought, that girl is special. And so I just want to tell you that, it's been a blessing to have you on today. And Austin, I want to thank both of you for allowing us to share your story with our listeners at Awaken Kingdom Culture, where hearts and minds come alive, one story at a time.